Hopefully it's not something that you've talked about ad nauseum. I want to move on to Mina and the Count. So tell me if I have
Can
this
you not
right.
tell that I will talk ad nauseum with very little prompting yet?
I'm all grown up.
Our guest today is a legendary animator, writer, and author, most famously known for a little series about our favorite teenage robot, Jenny Wakeman. If you're a 90s kid, he has definitely worked on at least one of your favorite cartoons in some capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rob Renzetti.
Do I clap for myself? Is that weird?
Not at all, man. Now we got to celebrate ourselves.
But I heard applause on you put applause on someone else's thing.
There will be a track. There will be a track.
Okay, good. So it won't seem too thin. That's good to know. Hey, Tenn, nice to be with you.
Oh, thanks for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. I had suspected that Halloween was your favorite holiday, as indeed it is also mine, and I confirmed that suspicion on the Teenage Roblog. There's a post from 2006 where you say that one of your biggest regrets about My Life as a Teenage Robot is not being able to do an official Halloween episode because Halloween is easily your favorite holiday. So I want to start right there. What are your favorite Halloween memories as a kid?
You know, it's funny. I loved Halloween as a kid. I wouldn't say it was my favorite holiday when I was a kid. I grew up in an era where you just basically walked around in your neighborhood and, trick-or-treated. I knew most of my neighbors, at least on the block that I lived. I lived on this kind of horseshoe-shaped block. And I knew almost everybody in, I'd say at least 60% of the houses I knew somebody in. And then we'd branch out from there. You know, that was just, I had a typical Halloween. The one memory I have, which is from my strongest memory I have from being a kid at Halloween, is actually a negative memory, which is my dad took me to a haunted house that the park district was doing.
Nice.
And it was a really great, by my standards today, looking at it as an adult, it was a really great haunted house. Like, back then, like there weren't as many like worries about insurance or someone suing you or whatever.
Right.
They put you through your paces, and there was these weird parts where people were grabbing at our legs, and you could go on a little mini slide.
Oh man!
And there was parts where you were crawling and whatever. I enjoyed it, but it also freaked me out.
Dude, that's traumatizing.
It was a little bit the people grabbing the legs was not great. It really freaked me out. I like it funny, but because even though I love Halloween, I love all scary stuff now. When I was a kid, I was a little bit of a fraidy cat in terms of like I didn't like scary movies. So Halloween, I liked Halloween. I like dressing up, like getting candy, but haunted houses, not so great. After that one, when I was a teenager, I went to one again at the Park District. And in that one, like you had to literally get down and crawl, and we were in this tight environment, and someone came out and grabbed at me, and just sheer reaction, I like kicked at him, like and like he got really pissed at me and like
holy shit,
and like punched me in
the
like
scare actor punched you, bro.
Yeah, he punched me because I kicked him.
How old were you?
I was probably, I don't know, 12, 13. I was
my God.
Just going to my teen years. And I mean, I knew I should have known better, right? But like I felt I was upset, but also like, yeah, I get it. I understand. Like, but it was like, you never encounter that today. Like we used to go to tons of haunted houses before the pandemic, less so now. But we do love walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff. But today, barely anybody even gets any. They could get close to you, but they never touch you. But back then, like they grabbed at you and like you did all this weird stuff with you. So I enjoyed that. I wish that things were like that now. I kind of look back on that stuff fondly. But when I was a kid going through it, I obviously was very scared of it.
Scaring the shit out of you. Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Now that you're a grown up and you do have the love for Halloween, what Halloween traditions does your family have now, if any?
We really have no traditions, so to speak. We just kind of play every year by ear. It depends on what's out there, what we feel like we want to do. Since COVID hit, we pulled back on the going through mazes and stuff. Haven't done much of that, but there's so many great yard displays, and sometimes even like there's places in Los Angeles that do just like crazy like shows, like where there'll be like a half-hour musical medley or something, or with stage actors and stuff. It's so crazy out here because I don't know if it's the connection to the entertainment industry or what, but like it's not, I know it happens all over the country, but LA seems especially rich with those kind of opportunities. So, there's like a SoCal Haunt List and like a website you can go to and you can kind of strategize and see what's coming up. So we usually just play everything by ear. We don't really have any traditions besides Sometimes we'll do like a video theme, like we'll be like, we're only going to watch scary movies for October, but they're going to be scary movies we've never seen before. Or one year we did, we're only doing scary movies like 1980 earlier, because we're huge.
Nice.
We're both 80s kids, so like 80s movies easy.
Yeah.
But like any like 70s and 60s like horror, we're only going to do stuff that's earlier than that.
Yeah.
So, because we've seen the classics so many times, and we'll go back to them again and again and again, but like just to try and change things up or give us a little bit of a challenge, we'll sometimes say, like one Halloween, we're like, we're going to watch movies we've never seen before. All 30 days. And nothing we've seen before, just other new horror movies that are new to us, which is a challenge because we watch a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, I dig that, man. So yeah, my wife and I were definitely big on, especially in LA, going around and seeing the dope decorations people put up. But every year I have like a very regimented list of Halloween specials that we got to watch.
Okay, so you're the opposite, huh?
Yeah. I got so many that we usually start in September. So it's also my biggest regret on your behalf that there's not an official Teenage Robot Halloween episode.
Yeah, I wish we had gotten to it. I mean, we had one scene of Halloween in the Christmas special we did. So
yes.
That was kind of my placeholder. I was, they never asked us for a Halloween special. I probably would have, if we'd gotten a fourth season, I probably would have asked for one at that point.
Yeah, man. Well, I know you have on August 1st for the 20th anniversary, you're going to be telling a Teenage Robot story on your website.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah. On the news, if you sign up for the newsletter through my website, it's going to be like the old Charles Dickens things where he did a chapter at a time that would come out. Not quite as long as Dickens. It won't be going on for months and months and months. Right now, I've got the outline I have is about, I think, around 11 chapters. We'll see whether it expands maybe a little bit or not, depending when I get into the writing.
Yeah.
I've got an idea for it. I've got it worked out, but I've only written the first chapter. I did a first draft of the first chapter. Tomorrow, I'm going to jump back in.
Okay.
And do another pass on that first chapter. So I'm hoping to have a new chapter maybe once a week if I'm doing well, once every other week if I'm not. But because at the same time, I'm writing the third book in what's being called the Horrible series. I'm doing this trilogy of books for Penguin Workshop, and the first one's called The Horrible Bag of Terrible Things. Second one, just the net title for that just got announced, The Twisted Tower of Endless Torment. And the third one is untitled as of yet. I know what's going on in it. It's I got an outline for that as well, but I got to actually write the thing. So I'm going to be writing two things at the same time: this Teenage Robot story and the third book for Penguin, for the Penguin trilogy. So
nice. Well,
I'm going to be busy writing.
So far, all the artwork you dropped for the books has been fire, man. I can't wait.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's my my illustrator, MS Corley, is doing a great job. Yeah, I'm loving it. And I don't think the full Penguin just gave me some artwork for to promote the book that it shows Kriebel, which is one of the main characters. There's a gargoyle named Kriebel in the first book. She appears on the back cover of the first book, and I don't think anybody's seen that yet. So,
ooh, okay,
that's coming out. I'm going to probably post that in the next day or two.
Coming soon.
Get my act together. The first book's out July 18th now. I think they moved it up a week. So it'll be out July 18th, and you can pre-order whenever, but it'll be hitting the stands, so to speak.
Amazing.
Yeah. Less than a month.
Is there any possibility that we can expect a little Halloween in our Teenage Robot stories?
Well, there's always going to be weirdness. Like one of my biggest regrets on Teenage Robot was that there weren't a lot of opportunities to do scary stuff. Like the Raggedy Android, the second episode of the Return of Raggedy Android was kind of the height of the horror that happened on Teenage Robot. Yeah. So we got our creepy moments every now and then. There's a little bit of creepiness at the end of this story, but it's not full on Halloween. But doing another Raggedy Android story down the line is definitely something that I've been thinking about. It won't be in this current story. This current story is worked out, but this current story is not. Depending upon what happens and how much enthusiasm people have for it, I'm planning to do more kind of when I have a chance to do it and when I have a idea in mind. Got the germs of I don't even call it a second season because that's kind of silly, but a second chapter story for Teenage Robot after this one.
Cool.
Got some ideas. Hopefully the beginning, not the end. But after I write this third book, I'll actually have more time to do some more other writing. So it's going to be kind of jamming to get these two things done kind of concurrently, and then I'll be done with both of them maybe. Take a break and then maybe come back after a short break with another Teenage Robot story if I can figure out the next one. But definitely, the show had to be a certain thing. It was already action and comedy, so getting scares in there every once in a while worked, but not as often as I'd like to.
Yeah, it's challenging.
I don't think they really like the creepier stuff. You know, the Invader Zim was kind of staking out that territory.
Sure.
When our show was going. So, yeah, I mean, I did mean in the counts. I love horror stuff. The Horrible Bag of Terrible Things is a horror fantasy.
Yeah.
With laughs, thrown in. It's, I think the term is kind of spooky middle grade.
Yeah.
In fact, I belong to a group called Spooky Middle Grade.
That's tight.
A bunch of authors that do that kind of stuff. So, it's not super scary, but there's some nice creepy moments in there for kids of all ages, I think.
Yeah. Well, I would agree, man. I'm definitely going to get to that. Let's take it back a little bit. You went to Columbia College Chicago for animation, where Gendy Tartakovsky was your roommate, and later the both of you went on to be roomies at Cal Arts.
We weren't roommates at Columbia because we were both living at home, but we were roommates at Cal Arts.
Right. Okay. And so I've heard you mention that at the time when you guys were at Cal Arts, there weren't really that many creator-driven cartoon series out there. So no one necessarily was in school with the goal or the realistic goal of graduating and getting your own show. At what point for you did you have that goal?
It's interesting because I would say that goal probably came when we came to Hanna-Barbera and started working on Two Stupid Dogs together, along with our friends Craig McCracken and Paul Rudish. We all got hired to work on Two Stupid Dogs, which was created by Donovan Cook, another Cal Arts alum. While we were there working on that show, Fred Seibert became president of Hanna-Barbera and started the shorts program. Basically what happened was he gambled on Two Stupid Dogs and another show called SWAT Cats. And neither one of those was a hit. So instead of putting all his eggs in two baskets, he decided to put his eggs in, like, I don't know how many cartoons they ended up doing, like 60 baskets. I can't remember how many what cartoons there ended up being. A lot. But back at that time, John Kriclusi had his ear a little bit and was suggesting that the program to Fred, but it was really Fred who spearheaded getting that going. And while I was still working on Two Stupid Dogs, Gendy and Craig both were doing the Dexter and Powerpuff shorts.
Yeah.
And I kind of came into that program a little bit later and did the first Mina short there. So when we were doing all those shorts, we were hoping one of ours would become a series, and so that was kind of when it became clear that there was an opportunity, at least for one of us, to get a show.
Yeah.
And for us as a group to work on. It ended up being Dexter's. I think when we were going, we thought Craig's show was more of a sure thing.
Which was Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah, Powerpuff, we thought Powerpuff would probably be the one rather than Dexter. But then I think Dexter actually ended up testing better than Powerpuff.
It did,
legendarily bad focus group, which Craig has talked about many, many times. But so
and it's interesting that you brought up John K and the focus group thing, because I recently had David Feiss as a guest, and he was saying that John K was sort of the inspiration behind, I could have my own series.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I mean, John K. Renzetti came out when we were still at Cal Arts.
Yeah.
And so that was incredibly thrilling to us. And we loved those early episodes. But I don't think when we looked up to, at that point, not knowing his personal history yet. We looked up to John K. as like a demigod. You know what I mean? Like, he was an amazing artist. Ren and Stimpy was super funny. So I don't think we thought of ourselves like, well, if John Kriclusi can get a show, then one of us can get a show. Like, I hope I can get a job. You know what I mean? Like, not just, there's still like nobody, like I said, like nobody at Cal Arts at that point was like, well, my goal is to have my own show. Our goal was to get hired in the animation industry and make a career out of it in some form or another. And, most people I went to school with, they wanted to get into features. And I wasn't against getting into features. In fact, I had a chance to get an internship on PageMaster.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah. So both Gendy and I and a bunch of our friends, we all got offers to become basically interns on PageMaster and then work our way up the scale.
Was that around sophomore year, you said?
It was sophomore year. I only went to Cal Arts 2 years. So it was towards the end of our sophomore year. Yeah. Two opportunities came up. One was to do this internship at
the other one was Batman. Yeah.
The other one was Batman in Spain. Yeah. You're well researched.
I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan. To take it back to PageMaster, you guys applied. It was an internship, and you went to Bruce W. Smith's house.
Yes, we did.
Around the same time, you had a classmate that was from Spain, and that's how you knew about the Batman opportunity.
Sergio
right?
Pablos. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you went to Bruce W. Smith's house and you saw, the PageMaster art, obviously Bruce W. Smith had been in the biz for a minute, so he was like a known entity. PageMaster had some big names attached to it. What was your main motivation to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to take the Spain opportunity instead?
It was because I was going to be an animator in Spain as opposed to an assistant, like starting at the bottom of the tier in terms of like, you're probably familiar with this and I'm familiar with offices, but there's like a tier of things. Like you don't just get to animate because you get hired on an animated movie. You are most likely starting as a cleanup artist, which means you are making the drawings that somebody else made putting the final line on them. Yeah. And trying to preserve the spirit of drawing, which is no easy task. I did a little bit of cleanup work for a company called Star Tunes out of Chicago before I ever got to CalArts, and in between years of CalArts, I'm working on some Tiny Toons episodes. It's not easy. Right. It's good training though. It's good training to strengthen your drawing skills to be a cleanup artist. So it's not something you want to skip over. Right. But knowing that that's where you have to start, and then maybe eventually you become an assistant, and then a few years later you might get a chance to animate. We were given the chance to be animators right away on Batman, and to travel to Madrid. And I'd taken one European vacation when I was still at U of I, my junior year at University of Illinois, and I loved it. I loved it. We traveled in Europe for 2 months. It was fantastic. So I mistakenly thought it would be that. And working overseas is not quite the same as traveling overseas and having your whole day free to go explore museums and eat great food and all that. It was sit in an office, do a bad job trying to animate Batman because you can't draw these characters properly, and worry that you're falling incredibly far behind and not meeting all the quotas they gave you in terms of weekly footage and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying it was the wrong choice to make, because it led to the rest of my career, which is I've been very lucky and done things that I'm very proud of and really loved. And I think I've had a better career in television animation than I would have had in feature animation. I don't think feature would have necessarily suited me. Right. One of our guys, a guy named Mike, and I'm forgetting Mike's name right now, out of the 5 of us, he stayed behind, but everybody else had a very short time in Spain for a couple of reasons. I left for different reasons, but the company we went to work for went bankrupt.
I see. And I remember you said that you left also, your dad wasn't feeling well.
My dad had not a heart attack, but like a heart episode where he was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's scary, man.
And I was doing poorly as an animator, to be honest with you. I could not draw superhero characters. Like I never drew them as a kid. I only kind of fell in love with superhero comics as a teen. And even more so, even past my teen years. Yeah, I always loved funny animal comics. Carl Barks being my favorites as a kid. So, and I drew funny animals. So that was what I knew how to draw. Yeah. But whether I drew those that well or not is debatable. But I certainly couldn't draw superhero characters. So, like going to draw Batman, I knew it was going to be a challenge. But the Bruce Timm Batman wasn't so heavy on like all the musculature and all that. Yeah, kind of stuff, different which style, always kind of put me off. It was a different style. It was more stylized and stuff, so I thought I had a chance, but no, I did not have a chance. Drawing them, maybe animating them was like, it was a real challenge. I didn't understand human anatomy enough at that point. So yeah, I was doing poorly. They were about to demote me to like be an assistant or whatever, and then I heard that my dad was not doing well. So I went to this meeting with my director, and I think they thought the meeting was going to be about like how I was going to become an assistant rather than an animator, and I told them, that's all moot because I'm leaving. My dad has health problems. I need to go back home. Please give me my money. And they were like, oh crap. And I thought, like, are they really that upset about losing me? I don't think they were that fond of me to begin with. But what they were upset about was like, oh crap, we've been stringing everybody along, not paying them money. And now this guy's asking for all the money he owes. Yeah. We got to come up with it. Because what we didn't know at the time, we got there, we were promised 2 things. We were promised we're gonna get this X number of dollars a week, and you're gonna have a hotel to live. Apartment to live in. Well, they kept us in like a hotel for like 3 months. Right. In a hotel room with 4 of us sharing one hotel room. Oh shit. And then eventually we got an apartment, but they never paid us what we were owed. Every week they'd ask us, well, how much money do you need? And they'd pay us like 1/4 of what they owed us. That's wild. And we found out there were Spanish animators living there that hadn't been paid anything for like months. For a while, they segregated us in our own room. Yeah. Mostly that was because we wanted fresh air, and everybody else in the place was smoking constantly. Right. But we eventually got to know some of the Spanish animators, and they started telling us like, yeah, we haven't been paid in months. And they like went bankrupt and screwed everybody. And like Gendy and the other guys that I was over there with, they had to fight for like literally, I think, a year to get their money. Wow. Like, and did you get yours when you asked for it? I got mine before I ever left, because they were like, they had this house of cards, and they like, well, what are we going to do? He's leaving. If we don't pay him, he's going to start bitching and moaning. Like, you know, like they were trying to fool everybody, but they ended up filing for bankruptcy, screwing everybody out of their money.
Wow.
So it was a really generally horrible experience. Spain was great. Madrid was great. Loved Madrid.
Yeah.
When I quit, I had like maybe a half week before I left.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of sightseeing, and I was like, this is what I liked about Europe was sightseeing. Like this is what I remember liking. Like I got to go see, I went to, I think once I kind of traveled outside of Madrid. Oh, the other thing we did when we were still working, the great thing about being in Spain that year, it was the year of the Barcelona Olympics.
Oh,
and we actually spent one weekend and went to Barcelona, which was fantastic.
What timing. Yeah.
What a great city. And we got to like kind of hang out near the Olympic Village. We didn't have seen any events and stuff, but we kind of were near the Olympics for like one weekend. So that was fantastic.
Nice, man. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You got back to Chicago. You made sure your dad was okay. And then you got back out to LA.
Yes.
And I read that you, at some point, went up to NorCal to have an interview with Pixar. Is that correct?
I did. Yes.
What was the specific opportunity they were presenting to you? Was it like Toy Story?
That's the thing. There was no opportunity presented.
Oh, there was nothing.
I traveled up there and they gave me a tour of the place. And then that was it. Like they didn't offer me anything. And I don't know if like they didn't like me or what, but like I thought it was being, I thought it was being okay. I thought it was being a charming individual as far as that went. But yeah, I think I was probably maybe not like gushing enough about the whole thing. I don't know. I don't know if I was supposed to beg them for a job or what was supposed to happen, but really they showed me around. They said they liked my student film, and I said, thank you. And then they like offered me nothing. And I don't know if it was like, they weren't quite sure yet, or they needed to interview other people or what, but they gave me no hints that something else was going to happen. I was like, okay, well, great. It was great meeting you guys and seeing the place. Okay.
That's crazy, man.
It was weird. Nothing came of it. And I don't know. I know. I don't really remember past that. I don't know what happened.
Wow. Okay. Well, a random story that might have been.
Weird. It was really weird. Because like, that's fine. You don't have to, obligate offering me, but why did you want me to come up? I don't understand.
Right. Yeah. Just
I didn't say the magic word. I really don't know what the deal was, or if something changed between them sending me the offer and getting me up here, and then like they got news that like we don't have a position for them or something. So they just was like, they would probably said something if I'd asked, but since I didn't ask, they didn't. But they just let it pass. Man, it was really strange. I would have loved to work at Pixar at that point.
It would have been cool. But
they'd offer me a job, I would have snapped it up.
Snapped it up, yeah. But it's a good thing they didn't, because then you went on to work on Two Stupid Dogs. Your boy Craig McCracken got hired first, and he brought you on. You were storyboard artist first for Secret Squirrel, right? The little middle Secret Squirrel.
Well, we traded off. We did Two Stupid Dog and Secret Squirrel, and I can't remember which one. I think I did a Two Stupid Dog first, and then I did a Secret Squirrel. But we would go back and forth. All the board artists would do one or the other.
Nice.
I did a few Secret Squirrel. I don't know if I did more Secret Squirrels than most, but I know I think I did 3. I'm trying to remember. I did the Chameleon one, Platypus one, and the Gingerbread Man one.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah. A gingerbread boy, man, gingerbread man, you.
In season 2, that's when you had an opportunity to direct and write. Is that correct?
Yes.
So at that point in time, since directing and writing were not part of your experience, how did you convince them to give you that shot to do that on season 2?
Well, writing was part of the experience of being a storyboard artist, because we were only working off of very short outlines. Like we'd get,
gotcha. Okay.
We get like maybe a page, 2 pages, which described the cartoon. We get a little bit more with Secret Squirrel because it was you needed to figure things out a little bit more in there. It wasn't just a gag cartoon like the dogs were, but the dogs are really just a premise, some gag ideas, and like, this is where we think it ends. So we were always writing on that show. But the directing part, I don't remember why Donovan let me direct, but he did. And luckily, the second season of Two Stupid Dogs was a short season, because it was simply made to fill in, to take out Secret Squirrel and then plug new cartoons in the middle. So we only had, I think, I'm trying to remember what the first season, I think the first season Stupid Dog was 13 episodes. So 13 half hours, which were 3 cartoons. So we only had 13 more dog cartoons to do that second season. Yeah. And then I ended up doing 3 again, I think there. I think there were 3 of them, so I would storyboard one, then I would direct it. So I would direct my own storyboard, which was great because I knew what my intention was in terms of timing and all that. Yeah. And I even got to do some animation on on each one of them, like a scene or two I would do. But luckily I was able to like have enough time to do a little bit of animation. So it was really fun. It was great.
Really
to kind of expand my responsibilities there.
Really cool, man.
Children of the night, awake. It is the hour of the dead.
Next thing I want to talk about is my favorite Rob Renzetti project, but hopefully it's not something that you've talked about ad nauseum. I want to move on to Mina and the Count. So tell me if I have
Can
this
you not
right.
tell that I will talk ad nauseum with very little prompting yet?
I'm glad, man. No, I'm glad that you are so willing to share. It's really nice.
Okay, good.
Mina and the Count. Tell me if I have this right. I mean, obviously, Mina and the Count in its original form was your student film that I've seen you uploaded on YouTube a few years ago, which was dope.
I like to take my best friend Count Dracula to the playground near my house. We play on the jungle gym and on the swings and on the slide.
So at the time when Larry Huber was looking for shorts and he gave Gendy a call, and that's also how David Feist got Count and Chicken in there. Is it true that at the time you could not pitch Mina and the Count because you had optioned it to a guy named Terry Thorin?
Yes, that's correct. Terry saw the student film, and at the time he was running an animation festival, where you'd show a bunch of animated shorts in a movie theater that was in competition with Spike and Mike. Spike and Mike were more kind of famous from that era because they did like nastier cartoons, like our gross out cartoons or sexy cartoons. They're like, I forget what their show. I don't even remember what their show was called because we just always shorthanded it as Spike and Mike. But Terry Thorne was like running like the G-rated animation festival, and he saw the short and he's like, I want to do something with these characters, and maybe even make it a series or whatever. So I actually was thinking of Mina and the Count as a series right off of the student film. The weird thing is also Spike and Mike actually approached me about like Mina and the Count. One of them actually, Spike did. He approached me at the same time they were talking to Craig about finishing Powerpuff.
Wow.
And I was like, are you sure you want to finish my film? Because my film is longer. It's not stylized. I haven't got most of it animated yet. Like it would be really expensive and it wasn't really in their wheelhouse. And Spike kind of approached me, and then Mike, who was more of the businessman end of things, had been out of town. He came back into town, and he's like, I don't know what the conversation was, but I think it was along the lines of like, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you?" Like, basically, Mike called me up and like repeated the conversation that I'd had with Spike back to me. Like, he's like, "Yeah, we can't complete your film. It's like too fully animated and too long. Most of it's not done yet." I'm like, "Yes, I said all these things to Spike. I understand." So after that, like that might have also like prompted Terry to be interested because they were always in competition.
Sure.
Anyways, he optioned the idea, so it was tied up with him. And actually, when I was in Spain, I was working on sketches and ideas about like other episodes of Mina and what it could be like as a series.
Oh, was it optioned that early? Like you were?
Yeah, it was optioned coming out right out of school. Like that's because after that was my second year film. Yeah. And at the end of that year, I went to Spain. Yeah. So it got optioned, and while I was overseas, I was like working on it and stuff, and then just nothing ever came of it. But it was optioned with him. I forget if it was 2 or 3 years. But so when Genny and Craig started doing the first shorts, I wanted to pitch Mina right away. Yeah. And I wouldn't have been on second season of Two Stupid Dogs. I would have just moved over to shorts because they moved on before Stupid Dogs ever got picked up. And I was I was kind of in this limbo, like, I can't do that. I don't have the rights back.
Did you ever like hit up Terry and be like, hey man, is anything going on with this, or could I have it back?
I mean, I checked in with him a couple times, and the answer was always like, oh well, yeah. I mean, it just like put me off, like
so, like industry shit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but he had the right to put me off, like
for sure, yeah.
Like he had it for 2 years. I think it was 2 years. I don't think it was 3. Yeah, but like he had it for 2 years, and I had to wait. So I waited, and that's why I ended up doing. I don't know if I would have ended up doing 2 Mina shorts if I'd started the same as Dexter and Powerpuff, like they both did the 2 shorts. I hope they would have liked it. I pitched them what became the first Nickelodeon short. I pitched that originally at Hanna-Barbera / Cartoon Network, Ghouls Tribunal. That was actually my pitch to like for a second Mina short, and then for like Mina as a middle cartoon for Dexter, which didn't end up happening, but I pitched that idea.
So eventually the time expires and it comes back to you, and now finally you get to make it into a what a cartoon.
What?
At that stage, when you're like greenlit to be like, okay, we'll put this as a what a cartoon. How does voice casting work there? Does the network help you with that? Because I'm just wondering, like, how at that point did you get Mark Hamill to voice Vlad?
Well, you work with the studio. They have what's called a casting director, that person will work with you and ask you like, well, how do you think this character would sound? And I have some suggestions, and then they will come up with like a list of people to bring in for auditions. And Mark was just on that list.
Wow.
And Mark had already been doing, I knew he was
the Joker. Yeah.
He was the Joker on Batman, the version that I worked on in Spain.
Yeah.
So I knew he was a voice actor. And it's interesting now because after posts, now that Star Wars is back in everybody's consciousness 24/7, there was this lull after the first movies came out where they were just kind of like, oh, I love Star Wars, but there was no scene of them ever coming back.
Correct.
And Mark's career kind of was on, kind of hit a trough.
Yeah.
And he started doing voice actor work, and that was his bread and butter for a long time. You know what I mean? He wasn't appearing on screen. He was just a voice actor.
Yeah.
But I was skeptical of him. I was seriously skeptical that he was like, well, I know he's the voice on Joker, but like, how versatile is he?
Yeah.
And he came in and like blew me away. Like he was by far the best candidate for the voice. He was just amazing. He was amazing, and like I couldn't think of anybody better than him. And so
as an adult, when as a kid, you watch and you don't really take in the credits, but as an adult, rewatching Mina and the Count, as I often do, and first time I noticed Mark Hamill, I was like, what the fuck? Like, he did that voice?
Oh no, not another tea party. We've had 3 tea parties already.
He's one of the best voice actors in the business, and a super, super nice guy. Even now, when, I've worked with him a couple of times on other shows, like he came and did a voice for us on Gravity Falls.
Right, yeah.
He's just... And
he voiced a character in an Oh Yeah cartoon that you did, the F-Files.
Oh, right. I mean, I'd hire him for anything.
Yeah.
He's great.
Speaking of voice acting, why did Mina's voice change from Ashley Johnson to Tara Strong?
Well, 2 reasons. Ashley was starting to get older, which is always a problem when you cast actual kids.
Right, yeah.
And she wanted too much money. She
like
I don't know why she thought I got picked up for 6 shorts, but it wasn't like it was a series pickup, you know what I mean?
Right.
And,
you didn't have budget like that. Yeah.
No, and like voice actor, like Mark Hamill makes, at least back then, and I don't know, maybe he's demanding more now. He made scale. He made the same as everybody else. Like he wasn't asking extra money because he was Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Wow.
Most voice actors, they do it for scale. Which means they get the same as anybody else. Off the street. Doesn't matter how big of a star. Some celebrities that don't normally do voice work, they probably are getting a little bit more. Of course. But they don't get a ton more.
Yeah.
The Disney movies, all the celebrity casting they do in features, that's a whole different thing. But in television, you don't get much more, even if you're the most famous person in the world. So Nickelodeon was not willing to give her more than scale. And so that's why the voice changed. And it was actually much easier to work with Tara, who I also love and is incredibly versatile and have worked with again and again and again over the years. Icon, pure icon. She did great, and I was happy that we made the change, actually. There's a great purity you get from an actual kid voice, but you really are always gambling on whether they have the acting ability and if you're going to be able to sustain it. Like if it had gotten picked up a series and gone for years, like she would have just aged out of the role.
Right. Yeah.
And she was already kind of aging out of it when she asked for more money. So nice.
Well, it worked out for the best.
Yeah. I would have been happy to have her stay as the voice. She did a great job in the original short, but she barely had to speak in the original short too. And she, Mina didn't speak a lot in the others, but she needed to have a little bit more acting chops. And Tara can do a lot with little, meaning though Mina didn't speak very often, when she did, like Tara made it count.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
My Best Friend by Mina Harper. My best friend has blue skin and is around 700 years old.
Mina and the Count had so many almosts. I mean, you mentioned Dexter. It got replaced by Just His Friends on Dexter. Yep. When you had an opportunity to pitch it as an ABC Saturday morning cartoon, what was the reason that they provided that they were not going to pick it up?
Because ABC got bought by Disney. Like literally a week before I went to pitch to ABC. ABC got bought by Disney. So for some reason, we kept the meeting. For some reason, I pitched to ABC, to an executive I really love, Linda Steiner. She's a great woman.
Yeah.
Ended up working with her on My Little Pony years later.
Yep.
And Linda was a huge fan of it. And I went to that meeting, and it was very much like the talk with Spike and Mike, where I'm the doubtful one in the room going like, really? Didn't Disney just bought you? Aren't they going to be doing your whole Saturday lineup? And Linda,
Right.
bless her heart, was like either lying to me or under the impression that she still had more autonomy than she did, which was, and I think it was probably the latter, because she was a sweet woman. If it had been like a no-go, she would have been like, I'm sorry we dragged you down.
Not waste your time.
Screwed.
Yeah.
But she was like, it was a weekend. She's like, no, we are still going to be able to do whatever we want with Saturday morning on ABC. So we are going to go forward with this. And then again, it was like a, Pixar, like never heard from again.
Right.
We had that meeting, very nice meeting. She loved everything I had to say. I've never had a better meeting in my life, but it was like, maybe I was relaxed and confident because I knew it was not going there. I'm like, this is not going to happen.
The stakes were low.
It would have been huge. If it was a Saturday morning cartoon, it would have been a huge thing. It would have been fantastic. But the timing was off, and the Disney lineup got announced, the NBC lineup got announced. It was all Disney shows. It was Doug and whatever else they were doing at the time. There was no Mina and the Count on that schedule.
Yeah. Eventually, you left Cartoon Network and you went to Nick because Fred Seibert told you they were gonna make it, and so Mina.
He left Hanna-Barbera and he moved on, and he lured me over there and he said, I want to make Mina as a show.
Right, and you had to wait a little bit because it was still owned by Hanna-Barbera.
No, I didn't have to wait in the same way. Nickelodeon just basically bought the money that Hanna-Barbera had put up. There were development costs, and Nickelodeon had to pay those costs to get the rights to do more with it.
Right. Okay.
So it cost them extra money than like a new short that was a brand new idea would do. But Fred was really backing me, so they did that. So and time had expired since I'd done the short because we were doing Dexter as a series.
Of course.
We'd done 2 seasons of Dexter, and we were into we'd done 2 short seasons, like 6 episodes and 7 episodes, and we were in the middle of the like 39 that they picked up after that.
Yeah.
So we were in the middle of that. So it had been a couple of years since I'd done the short when I moved over to Nickelodeon. So the time was basically up anyways. But even with the time being up, like there was a part in that contract where it's like, if you take it somewhere else, they have to pay us some of this money that we put forward for it. So that's what Nickelodeon had to do. But I did wait because I did a bunch of stuff. I did a bunch of other things first season. So in the time that I was waiting for like to be available, I did all the random shorts that I did the first season of Cartoons.
Yeah.
F Tales and Ask Edward and
Yes.
Cop and His Donut and Hubbykins versus Sweetie Pie. Those were the 4 different shorts I did.
When you did the additional Mina shorts at Nickelodeon, what was the specific reason or reasons that you were given that they were not green lighting this for series? I mean, were they saying that it wasn't hitting with their audience? I mean, what did they say?
I don't think they ever tested it. They were just creeped out by the idea of a vampire having a relationship with a little girl.
That was it.
Yeah, I mean, they never told me that, but that's Fred told me that. Fred told me they can't get over it. They just didn't want it. There's nothing for me to do about it. It was inherent, and that was the concept: a friendship between a vampire and a little girl. Like the Count would definitely, bite adult women. He wasn't going to ever bite Mina because he wasn't the
They were
equivalent
pals,
of,
yeah.
They were pals. He's not a vampire pedophile.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
he had standards. He was like, I bite adults. I don't bite little children.
He had morals, yeah.
He had vampire morals, yes, if you want to call that. There was nothing in the show that was pointing in that direction. I wasn't trying to get away with anything. It was supposed to be completely innocent. That was the whole contrast. And he likes her, and he likes hanging out with her, and it's changed his life. And Igor can't understand it.
Are you sure you're not trying to get rid of me so you can play with that human girl?
Oh, don't be silly, Igor. I'm all through with Mina.
He's hiding it from his other monster friends. He doesn't want them to know. He's ashamed of it as a monster, but as an individual, he loves spending time with Mina. So, but they couldn't get past the idea that there was something weird about their relationship. And so that was it. It was done with them for that reason.
Here's a question for you that I have now. I'm sure you know the Phineas and Ferb story.
No, which Phineas and Ferb story are you talking about?
I mean, they pitched that show for about 15 years before.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course. Yes.
Anybody said yes. And I mean, they got every criticism in the book that mostly that it was too smart and stuff like that. But, Dan Povenmire was rolling around with his portfolio for like whenever the opportunity arose, he could bust it out and do a little pitch. So do you still have any hope at all to pitch Mina? Because I mean, even the format, right? The 7-minute format, they're doing it right now on Apple TV with the Snoopy show. To me, there's so many other avenues out there, and so I would just love to see it.
I mean, I would never say never, but like it's not a focus of mine to go back and do Mina. I love those characters, but it's been a long time since I thought of doing stories with them. I mean, I'm more likely to maybe do a story with them like I'm doing Teenage Robot now on on my newsletter or in a book form or whatever. And those characters do reside with me. I have the rights to those because Nickelodeon never bought them. They bought Teenage Robot, but they never bought me an account.
Oh, nice.
So I could do whatever I want with them, but you create these things at a certain time, and it's one reason I've never come back and done Teenage Robot until now.
Yeah,
is that you just kind of move on. And you're not the same person,
Sure.
that you were when you created those things. I love those characters, but like I always conceived of it as definitely as 7-minute shorts. But now I haven't worked in that format in so long. Everything I've worked on has gotten progressively longer. Went from 7 minutes in those shorts to 11-minute episodes of Teenage Robot, some half-hour episodes of that. Then, My Little Pony, half-hour episodes, Gravity Falls, half-hour episodes, Kid Cosmic, half-hour episodes. So I don't know that I could try to get back in the mindset of 7-minute cartoons. I think they could work as 11-minute cartoons. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. But if I conceived of it as in slightly different way, maybe as a half-hour show. But I'm not sure I would ever want to go back and do it. I mean, I'm doing kind of horror themed back stuff with the Horrible Bag now. I'm glad. Yeah. I like doing the horror stuff again. And also, I'd say if I were to criticize my own work, like one, they're all the characters, all the monsters are universal monsters, and there'd be rights problems with that. You know what I mean? Like the reason the Frankenstein monster is dressed the way he is in the Mina shorts is because if he were in his more iconic costume, I would have run afoul of copyright. With Universal. So there's things like that. You know what I mean? You can't really do the Frankenstein monster. You kind of have to do something that looks a little different. You can't do Dracula. You can do the Counts. You can have werewolf characters, but you can't do
Lon Chaney Wolfman.
You can't do Lon Chaney Wolfman, right? So you can have a mummy character, but you can't do the mummy.
I brought the chips. I brought the drinks. I brought my wife.
After having worked on Gravity Falls and really both watching and help come up with some of the, mostly watching because Hirsch is amazing for ideas, but like coming up with the way he twists monsters and does something new and funny with them. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do in the Horrible Bag, is like do things that people haven't seen before, do horror things that aren't just a recap of the earlier stuff. So as much as I love those characters, I'm not sure creatively it would be something I might go back to. I might, though. I'm not, again, I'm never going to say never again, because I may come up with something down the line that I'm like, oh, this would be great for me in an account. Maybe I'll do something, but nobody's beating down my door to do anything with them as of yet.
Yeah. If I was an exec, I'd be beating down your door right now.
Okay, well, good. Well, if you ever get in that position, look me up. You know where to find me.
You bet, man. Well, carrying on with Oh Yeah Cartoons, we just talked about the F-Tales and a few more. Did you ever pitch any of those as full series as well?
I mean, I never pitched them. They were all meant to be nascent series. That was the whole point of Oh Yeah Cartoons. So
right.
I had ideas for other Ask Edward episodes and other F-Tale episodes and Cop and... Actually, the thing I wrote a Bible for a Cop and His Donut because I really fell in love with that idea.
Oh, nice.
And I probably had more ideas for that than anything else, just because it was a cop show format. So like when you're kind of tweaking an existing format, it's kind of easy to come up with stuff.
I can't believe my luck! My first day on the job, and already I got my first bank robbery, my first partner, and my first donut.
And I had some ideas for F-Tales and like what the bigger story of an F-Tales series could be. And I actually tried to make Ask Edward as a children's book. It hasn't gone anywhere yet, but I did like do a children's book version of it. Mostly because at the time, I think it was Random House. Like Fred got a deal with Random House to like develop some of the Oh Yeah Cartoons as children's books. And I did a version for them. And that didn't go anywhere. And then I kind of did a different version of it for myself. And that also didn't go anywhere. So all those ideas were meant to be series. While I was doing those, I was still like, well, I think Mina's really my series. And I was just kind of waiting to do more Mina with that second season. So, that was the push. Like I did one episode of each of those ideas and then I did 5. I was supposed to do 6. Yeah. But then the 6th slot got taken by Teenage Robot.
Right. So, bringing us to the ultimate Oh Yeah cartoon for you, which was my neighbor was a Teenage Robot.
Robot? Mrs. Wakeman's weird, but she's not a robot.
And I'm not deaf either, young man.
Did you get an immediate response from Nick that was like, yo, this is the one that we're taking? Or, I mean, how long because obviously
I heard that there was, after I made it, I heard there was interest in it as a series, but Fred advised me to not stick around Nickelodeon based on a very, very vague premise that it could be a series one day. So I decided I wanted a change of scenery, especially after, them rejecting Mina. So I went away and I worked at Family Guy. And
you Family House of Mouse, I saw.
I did a little bit on House of Mouse. That was just freelance work, but I was in-house as a director on Family Guy where I met Dan Povenmire.
Yeah, really cool.
We were directors at the same time. And then I went back to Cartoon Network and worked on a little bit of Powerpuff. Yeah, and worked on Samurai Jack.
Yes,
and so there was like 3 years between me being at Nickelodeon and then Teenage Robot getting picked up as a series.
So was it sometime while you were back at Cartoon Network, you get a call and they're like, "Hey, we're ready to go with Teenage Robot"?
Yeah, I got a call from Fred Seibert that said like, "Hey, there's serious interest in Teenage Robot as a series," and I'm like, "Okay." And then I got a call from Margie Cohn, who's one of the Nickelodeon execs, like right before the holidays, and they said, "We're picking you up."
Amazing.
And stupidly on that phone call, I was like, I can't believe you're calling me. They say you guys don't make any decisions between Thanksgiving and the end of the year. I kind of like insulted the woman as she was saying, we're picking up your show. I'm like, I didn't expect you jerks to make any decisions for the rest of the year because you're all slacking off around the holidays. I didn't say it like that, but pretty much that was
the insinuation.
That was the insinuation. Like, you guys have already you're already calling it. You called it a day for 2000. 2001, I think, because then we started developing in 2002.
Sure.
Wow. But yeah, no, they picked me up like right before Thanksgiving. So I was like, I knew I had a show. It was a very great Christmas gift they gave me.
Wow, man. Yeah. Okay, cool. So Teenage Robot had a great run. And shortly after that, you went back to work on Foster's. Around that time is when you were a supervising producer on Cartoon Institute. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Craig and I, we worked. I came back and I worked with Craig on Foster's and wrote and storyboarded some episodes of that. And then we were attached to the development department. And the traditional development department wasn't really doing much. And Craig and I came up with the idea of doing let's do a series of shorts like Fred did with us. It's a great way to find new ideas. So Craig and I pitched the Cartoon Institute to Rob Sorcher and he picked it up. So we became the execs in charge of that shorts program. So we basically slid into Fred Seibert's role as we are going to be the ones that you pitch to. If we like your idea, we'll pick it up. We'll give you money to do a storyboard. Yeah. And then you'll pitch to a wider group of individuals and you'll get a yes or a no.
It's amazing because then not only did you create some of my favorite cartoons of all time, but you were responsible for greenlighting one of my favorite cartoons of all time, which is Regular Show. I'd love to hear when you first saw Regular Show. Out of Cartoon Institute, only 2 cartoons went, Uncle Grandpa and Regular Show. So what was it about that and J.G. Quintel that made you realize this got the stuff?
Part of it is when someone comes to you with something that seems so fully formed already. Yeah. And we'd seen JG's student films and thought they were really funny. Yeah. And when he just pitched, he pitched to us the short pretty much as it went forward into pilot. I don't think we had, I barely remember any notes we gave him, and he probably ignored those notes anyways. He knew what he was doing. The thing is about that job is if somebody comes to you and they've got it figured out, the thing is to stay out of their way. And I can't take much credit for that show besides recognizing that JG had an amazing sense of humor and a genius outlook on things, and that it should be a show. He pitched it to Craig and I. We said, this is great. I think we may have given him a couple of notes or whatever, and he needed to do some cleanup work before he pitched it to Rob and the other creators that we were working with at the Cartoon Institute. And then he just pitched it, and it was an obvious yes. Again, we greenlit that as a group, but we greenlit the pilot. The ultimate decision to make it a show was up to Rob Sorcher and the other execs. We kind of were. We didn't have the power to say and this will be a series, but we did have the power to say this should be a pilot, and we think it should be a series. We think it'll be amazing.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. And Uncle Grandpa was the same thing. It was so crazy bonkers, and it was just what notes am I going to give you? He should be on a flying lion instead of a flying tiger. There was no. Yeah. Again, it's just recognizing when someone's got it all together. And there were plenty of episodes where we would give our opinion and say we think you should do this and whatever, but we never imposed, much like Fred would offer his opinion and say, I think these are the things you should do, but he never offered a solution. He was you figure it out, here's my notes on it, you figure out how and if you want to interpret those notes.
So it's still coming from you.
Yeah, because that's what creator driven is all about, right? It's driven by the creator, as the phrase implies. So having execs tell creators what to do, no, but And my the execs I worked with on Teenage Robot were the same. Like they would say like, I don't think this is working. And sometimes they'd offer an idea, but they knew like, I'm going to give you the problem. You will figure out how to solve it. And they had the confidence in us to say, yes, well, I'll figure out how to solve it. And we were the same way. It was like, you'll figure out what needs to be done here. And that was the case. It was a fun job to have. It was an easy job to have when things went well. And if things didn't work, we didn't say yes to them. You know, we paid people to do a storyboard, but that was no guarantee that they were going to get in a pilot. And then Craig and I would see the initial idea. We'd say, we want to pay you to do a storyboard. They'd sometimes show us that storyboard. They'd do a rough pitch to the two of us, and we would give them notes, and then they were pitching to the group.
Fast forward a little bit, and you went to work on Gravity Falls in the capacity that Disney likes to have industry veterans working with newcomers to sort of show them the ropes.
Yeah.
And you, given the work that you had done before, I think you were the perfect veteran to be on Gravity Falls, the subject matter, of course. But would you just, for our listeners, tell us, what does it mean to be a supervising producer? Like, can you expand on your role a little bit on Gravity Falls?
I mean, the producer title is very fungible in animation as it is in live action. So it's really kind of you define the role yourself. I mean, sometimes when they would pair a veteran with a rookie, the veteran ends up doing the show for the rookie but doesn't get the credit as the creator. That was not the case with Hirsch on Gravity Falls. He was the creative lead. And I was basically just there to support him and to give him my opinion about everything, which I did. I was in all the story meetings. I go to the records. I would do all the aspects of what a creator would do. I would just be like the other guy in the room. With him and with the other people we were working with. The only thing I really didn't get involved with was the art direction, which Ian Morrill was the art director on that, and him and Alex were old roommates at CalArts again, or I don't know if they're roommates or just friends, but they had that handled. But I was intimately involved in all the story crafting, and I never wrote a script, but I reviewed every script. I was a story editor for a while as well. So I just was involved in all the creative aspects of the show, which was a thrill because that's the funnest part to be involved with.
Yeah.
It's helped coming up with the storylines and the creative aspect of it. But Hirsch had it. He had the whole show. He didn't need somebody to come in and do it for him. And I wouldn't have taken the job if that were the case, because I wasn't interested in doing all the work of a creator and not getting the credit of it. Hirsch did the job of a creator, and I was just there to help him. As a producer, I was just I was there to be a creative partner with him. That's all.
That's what's up, man. Amazing. Let's talk about The Horrible Bag of Terrible Things.
Oh, okay, sure.
So this is your first original novel, and the synopsis I read on your website sounded incredible. Number one, how did the idea come to you? What was your inspiration behind it? And number two, what was driving your choice to just do this as an original novel and not as a cartoon as you normally might?
Well, yeah, I mean, a few questions there, but I'll start with the last one first. I just enjoy, animation is one thing. It's one way of working, and it's very collaborative. You can't do it on your own. And sometimes that's wonderful because you have other people to rely on. And sometimes it's very frustrating that you have to clear all the hurdles you do, and you have to kind of try to make other artists do what you want or make other execs agree to what you want to do. So having had that experience both on my own show and as a creative partner on several shows at the top of the food chain, basically, I just want to do something for myself and on my own and see if I could do it. I've written 4 books with Disney that were based on their characters, 2 for Gravity Falls. And I enjoy the writing process. It's story making has become my favorite part of my job. And so I just wanted to see if I could pull it off. So I started doing it in my spare time. The genesis of the idea, the title actually comes from my wife, without dissing her too badly. She's a bit of a pack rat, and takes a lot of notes, thinks this piece of paper is vital and I need to hold on to it for the next 10 years. So our house can sometimes accumulate with a lot of piles of paper. And when we're trying to clear up, sometimes we'll go through them. Sometimes if we're pressed for time, we won't. And we'll just throw them into a shopping bag and put them aside for another day. So one of those shopping bags that had been lingering around, she called it The Horrible Bag of Terrible Things.
That's amazing.
And I love that title. And it prompted the idea that there could be a bag that had horrible things or terrible things inside of it, and that it could be a gateway to a world of those kind of things. So, and going back into my childhood, also, I was a huge fan of Felix the Cat's, the 1960s version of Felix the Cat, where he has this magical bag.
Yes.
That can transform into anything, or he can pull anything out of. I'd always loved that as a kid. So the kind of two of those things, the two of those kind of came together
Yeah.
and gave me the kind of prompting of the idea that there would be this world hidden inside a bag, and that terrible things would come out of it, and that you would get pulled back into it to experience more terrible things. Actually, I have a Felix magnet with his magical bag of tricks on my fridge, and I've had it for many, many years, long before the horrible bag came into existence.
That's tight, man. And we have at least 3 of them to look forward to.
Yes, at least 3. Maybe more. We'll see. First one's coming out on July 18th. We'll see how well it does.
Are you going to do a little signing circuit like Barnes & Noble and stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, I'll probably go in and sign books, but I probably might not do any in-person signing. Those are not as common as they used to be. And also, I'm still very COVID cautious, so I still stay away from people as
Makes
much
sense.
as possible.
Yeah.
There's a bookstore. I'm going to get the name wrong now, but we're doing it's called Mysterious Books, or what is it? No, Mysterious Galaxy. It's a bookstore down in San Diego, and I've signed some what they call book plates, which is basically a sticker with my signature.
Sure.
Sent them off there, so you can pre-order the Horrible Bag from Mysterious Galaxy and get my signature that way. I'm sure I'll do more signings at some point, whether they're remote or in person or just in the back room of Barnes & Noble for them to put on the shelf. There'll hopefully be signed versions out there.
Cool, man. If you could bring back just one thing from the 90s, what would it be?
One thing from the 90s. I'd probably bring back my own marriage in my early years of being married when we were young and vital and, not 50-year-old decrepit people. No, I don't know. Some pop culture thing from the 90s. That's a good question. I'd say the Scream series, but it's already been brought back. So, it's weird in this day of endless cultural reboots to say like, oh, there's something that I missed. You know what I miss? What I really loved from the 90s was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of that series, and it was a big influence on Teenage Robot. And, Joss Whedon has had his own nasty moments of not being the best person we thought he would be. So not crazy about that, but I love that show and would love to see more of it.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar seems like she's ready to go.
I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. I thought she was fantastic in that role. I was so skeptical of it, even though I'm a fan of vampires. I was so skeptical because I thought the movie version was pretty crappy.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, at the end of the first season of it, he had a party and said, "You got to come over and see this show." So we went over and saw, that first abbreviated season where I think they did like only 6 episodes or whatever. We saw like he showed like an earlier episode he recorded, and then we watched the season 1 finale, and they killed off the master. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't this the main guy of the?
Yeah.
Isn't this the main villain of the series? I was so blown away from that at the time because it was really pretty revolutionary storytelling. But to be like, nope, going to kill that off, going to do something new. Next season's going to be completely new villain, whatever.
Yeah.
Fell in love with that show, loved it from beginning to end, and was so sad to see it end.
That's a great answer.
I'd probably bring that one back.
Hell yeah, man. I just want to take a moment, Rob, to say thank you so much, not only for your time today, but from the bottom of my heart. You really did create some stuff that was very significant to my childhood and still holds a very special place with me today. Mina and the Count especially.
Much.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Tenn. It's always nice to hear that, so I appreciate it.
And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I'm all grown up.
Psych.
Subtle. I love it.
Very subtle.
I'm all grown up. SYKE.